Hello and welcome to Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Candace Kelly. We're taking a look at the heroin crisis and what Congress is doing about it. I'm joined by Congressman Frank Pallone Jr. and we're talking about something that's on the table right now. I know that major issues surrounding it have to do with money. Getting money to communities that, first of all, can help with the opioid reversal pill, for example. What are some of the tenets of this bill?
Well, I should point out, first of all, this is happening, the crisis or epidemic is happening because of abuse of prescription drugs. In other words, basically what people do is they take prescription drugs, for pain, and then oftentimes they'll move on to heroin. And heroin is very cheap now compared to where it was 10 or 20 years ago. And so, one of the things you mentioned is this is the opioid or heroin reversal drugs, which is available now. That if somebody has an overdose, the police or first aid can administer that. But it can be expensive, and it's not readily available in a lot of communities. So one of the things that's in this package is that you would provide grants to states or localities so that they could have access to those drugs.
I'm wondering how much discussion was there around this idea that maybe people might see this reversal pill as maybe something as a crutch or a fallback?
Candace, you're absolutely right. I think we've seen a real change in attitude towards this crisis. In other words, if you talked about this 5 years ago, it would have been very hard to get any support at the federal level to do anything that we're talking about. But I think that now, because it's such a crisis, and it's in rural areas, it's in suburban areas, in New Jersey, the two of the shore counties, Monmouth and Ocean, have the highest incidence. Okay, so this is not an urban problem. It's all over. Okay. And so I think the feeling is, you've got to have funding for these reversal drugs so they can be administered, but you also need a lot more money for treatment and treatment programs. And, there are other things too, like there's, people travel around from one state to the next and buy prescription drugs and then they sell them.
Right, so or they go out of state and they come back.
So one of the things that we have is a program to give money to states so they can monitor across state lines.
There's this whole idea and concept of partial fill.
That's true too.
What does that entail?
Well, what happens a lot of times is that you'll get a prescription from a doctor for your pain, and you'll get like a month or two in pills. And so the partial fill says that the pharmacist can suggest that you only take part of that prescription, then you come back 2 or 3 weeks later to get the rest, because you don't want it sitting on the shelf so that your relatives, your kids, or your friends can take it off the shelf and use it. Because that's another thing that's happening.
Plus, at that time, the doctor can see if you even need the other part of that particular fill.
To not encourage you to use too much.
All right, certainly a lot going on. I'm sure we'll have you back to get an update. It seems like the crisis won't go away anytime soon, unfortunately.
I don't think so, no.
All right, Congressman Frank Pallone Jr., good to see you.
You too, Candace.
And I'm Candace Kelly for Comcast Newsmakers. Thanks for joining us.